Hello, Facebook Live. What's happening, everybody? Marcus here. Sorry, I'm late today with my live. It's been a long morning. We did our Project Resilience meals today, 100 meals. We ended up doing 130 or 140 because they were short meals. So we ended up doing some more. Tomorrow, the next couple of days, we're doing meals for a couple different hospitals in the area, or not so near area. One of them is about 40 minutes away. So it's a busy week of doing these type of community meals during the day, and of course we are open 7 days a week. Since this whole thing went down back in March, we are open 7 days a week for takeout, curbside delivery. A lot of people now, because the weather's getting a little nicer, are eating outside. There's some tables outside, and people are. There's park benches and stuff, and there's some tables along the side here. So some people are getting their food and eating outside, eating in their cars outside. We play music every day, by the way, upstairs here, blasting into the parking lot. We play music, and so people come and set up. And it's in the parking lot and eat. And it's a municipal parking lot. It's a village parking lot. So people are being creative nowadays. Yesterday was a very successful day for Mother's Day. We were very, very busy yesterday. Lots and lots of to-go food. I was cooking omelets out in the garden. People were waiting by the fire pit while I was cooking omelets for them, and then taking the food out into the parking lot and eating it. So it was a really, really great day. A lot of grocery sales yesterday. Lots and lots of salmon Benedict. I made this salmon cake out of wild salmon, and we did a salmon Benedict, our version of salmon Benedict. It was really popular dish. Today I want to talk about salt, Himalayan salt. Well, everybody's still logging on here, about 10 or so people, 12 people on now. Hi Josh, hi Jim, hi Kiki. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you're tuning in live, drop a comment, #live. If it's on the replay, #replay. I'm going to take several minutes and devote it to salt today. Salt is a hot topic lately. A lot of people are asking me about salt, and they ask to keep buying the salt that we use here, which I just got more supply back in, the salt that we use. So I'll be talking about salt. A lot of people are under the impression that Himalayan salt is the best, and certain Himalayan salts are very, very, very good, and certain Himalayan salts are regular old salt. So we'll talk about Himalayan salt. We'll also talk about sea salt and the salt that we actually use. So I'll talk all about that. In the meantime, before I get started on that, free gloves. We are giving away free gloves. It's a community service. You just come in and grab a handful of gloves. We have gloves for sale. We have a lot of gloves. I'm finding that the supply on gloves was better the last couple of weeks, and we're able to keep buying gloves. I was at a certain point there 3 weeks ago where I couldn't buy gloves from anybody, and I was like, whoa, this is not good at all. And the week before that, we actually donated like 7 cases of gloves to a soup kitchen. So I'm like, oh boy, we just bought all these gloves, and then we donated them all, and now all of a sudden we might not be able to get any more gloves. So, and who knows what's going to happen? I mean, the glove shortage could swing back around and get worse. But for the time being, I have two separate vendors that have a good supply of gloves that we can easily buy gloves. So that's the good thing. So free gloves. If you want to buy a box, you can buy a box. But if you want to come in and grab a handful, they're totally free. Do not pump gas without gloves, folks. I've been doing it for years. I keep gloves in my car for years. I've kept a box, and I use it to pump gas. Those gas handles are probably the dirtiest thing. Whether or not we're dealing with COVID or not, those gas handles, those gas pumps are filthy. Everybody touches them, and next time you go to the gas station or like to a Stewart's or something, just watch what people do. They go in and they pump gas, then they go inside and they grab a donut or something or a bagel, and then they sit there and eat their bagel. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's insane if you think about how many people are touching those gas pumps. So come in, grab a couple gloves, at least use it for gas pumps, whether COVID's happening or not. Free water. Free water, we are giving away free water, ionized water. It's restructured water. Restructured water that is smaller clusters, high alkaline, high electron. It's an amazing water. It's ionized water. And we've started our big thing of crystal infused water. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there. We have a big canister at the bar. So when we're able to open back up, which I'm hearing now it could be end of June or July, that we're able to actually have people back in the dining room to actually sit down and eat. And I had people this weekend asking me, I just want to sit down. I just want to, and people walked in to pick up their to-go food and they go, can I just sit down and eat here? And I'm like, believe me, I want you to sit down and eat. I can't let you sit down and eat. There's fines imposed and stuff, or I'm not even sure if there's fines. People, you never know. It's like, there was lots and lots. People are going crazy right now. We had some of our guests that brought their own dishes. And they said, and I said, I'll put your food on your dishes. No, you don't have to put it on our dishes. We'll take it into to-go containers. We stay set in the parking lot and eat. They Mother's Day in the parking lot. And they brought their own dishes and their own glasses and things like that. And so people are going crazy, and a lot more than ever yesterday. People were just like, I just want to sit down and eat this food here. And I said, I want you to too. But we have to unfortunately wait a little longer. And it looks like the end of June, July, they're saying. We are ramping up our garden space right now, because when we open, we understand that garden spaces, outside seating, will have less regulations than inside. So we're ramping everything up. The tent is up right now. The lights are up. The fire pit's rocking and rolling most days. People wait out there. Instead of waiting inside, they wait out there for their food to get done. So we figured it's safer for them to wait outside than inside. So a lot of people are doing that on nicer days. I'm not sure what's happening today. It's supposed to rain now. I'm supposed to go for a run, but the sun has popped up. So, but as long as the weather is fine, that will be on out there. So free gloves, free water. We're doing a cool event this Saturday night. We did a tequila and rock and roll hangout last Saturday night, where we had, you came in and you got samples of tequila from us, Siete Leguas. We had the importer on with us. We had a musician on with us, Debbie and Paul, two musicians. They played in her bus. She has an old Woodstock bus, it's a 14-seater school bus or 17-seater school bus that is then renovated into a lounge and hand-painted on the outside. And it's really, really cool bus. So they played, they did the tasting with us, and they sat in the van, in their bus, and they played every 15 minutes or so. They played a couple songs for us, and we drank tequila, we had food, and we did all this virtually through a Zoom call. So it was a virtual tequila and rock and roll hangout. We're going to do another one this Saturday. It looks like we're doing this weekend, this Saturday night at 8:30. We're going to do a bourbon and blues. So we're going to do bourbon and rye from Mr. Peabody. It's a producer down in, it's a bottler down in Jersey. Mr. Peabody, Peter Peabody. So we're going to do his stuff. He'll be on there too. He's a great guy. And then we'll have a musician on playing blues. And you're going to get samples of the bourbon and the rye from us, and then enough ingredients to make yourself a Manhattan. And you can make a Manhattan at home. You can do it with or without food, 25 or 45. 25 without food, 45 with food. On the menu is our slow smoked brisket, 60-hour cooked, smoked and cooked for 60 hours, our brisket. That's going to be there, the brisket entree. And if you know, the brisket entree on our menu is like $27. So you will get a brisket. There'll be a cheese course, and then there'll be a dessert, some kind of chocolate to go with your Manhattan. So that's the situation with that. Bourbon and a rye, and then enough bourbon or rye to make a Manhattan. Jamie will walk you through making the Manhattan. So Jamie's famous bourbon or rye Manhattan. I'm not sure which one she's doing. You'll get the real cherries from Italy. The filthy cherries, real cherries, not those bright red atomic-looking colored Marciano cherries. Those are very cheap cherries with a lot of food dye and a lot of corn syrup. And they're like $20 a gallon. The ones that we buy or we sell are like, for a small little container, is like $35 or $45. I'm not sure, something like that. We've been selling a lot of those lately. So it's going to be a bourbon and blues virtual hangout this Saturday night. You can RSVP 647-3000. It's going to be a lot of fun. Last week was a lot of fun. And that's 2 weeks in a row now. The week before was wine. So it's been wine, tequila, and now bourbon. All right. Mr. Peabody's, by the way, the bourbon that we have here, the bourbon and rye. We have tons of bottles. We've been buying a couple cases a week, $25 a bottle each one. It's a great deal. You don't have to buy the little samples from us. You can actually buy the bottles from us and still do the tasting. So don't think you need to. You can come in and taste. So the bottles are open. Everybody who tastes is like, oh my gosh, this is really good stuff. And that's actually our well, or our house pour is the Mr. Peabody. So Peter Peabody from New Jersey. All right, so let's talk about salt. Himalayan salt. Let's talk about sea salt. So Himalayan salt, folks. People say to me, oh, I buy Himalayan, I buy Himalayan. If I were to go online right now and buy Himalayan salt, there's literally a vast price difference. And the reason there's a vast price difference is because different qualities. People just assume Himalayan salt is all the same, and it's not. They also assume that sea salt is all the same, and it's not. It's far from the same. So, Himalayan salt, there's over 50 companies. There's over 50 companies that mine salt in Pakistan. That is the specific spot where the mines typically all are, is in Pakistan. So there's 50 different companies, maybe even 60 companies that have mines, that set up mines, and they harvest salt. Now, within the realm of those 55 companies, within 50 companies, every one of those companies has different practices. Some refine it more. Some take out, the specks or the minerals or the non-salt particles. Some process it. Some might process it like salt. And other ones don't even have any machines in the minery because they don't want to disturb the vibrational frequencies of the salt. So the way they harvest it is a vast difference. The way they process it can be a vast difference. Just because you're buying Himalayan salt does not mean that that your salt is a better or superior salt. It can be a refined Himalayan salt. So just keep that in mind. Now, sea salt. Sea salt is sort of the same thing. People buy, I'm buying sea salt, I'm buying sea salt. I had a chef a couple years ago, more than a couple years, probably 10 years ago. And he was very adamant that we change our salt in the kitchen. And I said, why? He goes, because your salt's dirty. I said, what do you mean my salt's dirty? He goes, look at this. It has these specks in it. If I'm going to salt something, I don't want any specks. And I said to him, those are the minerals. Those are the other good things. And those are the things that are naturally found in the salt. But most salt companies strip those out. They refine it. They totally strip them out. They heat the salt, they strip it, they refine it, and then it's not a substance your body can even recognize anymore. Like regular old kosher salt, regular old table salt, folks. That's the worst thing you could put into your body. That is a pure poison, a pure toxin, and your body does not know what to do with it. When they process that salt, they process it up to 800-900 degrees, 1,000 degrees. And when you process salt at that high temperatures, it does some funky stuff to it. Salt's a great conductor of heat, by the way, like an amazing conductor of heat. If you ever want to clean like a pan or something, you want to clean something like let's say you have a cast iron pan that you want to just totally strip down and let's just get all these years of whatever off on here. You would take salt, layer salt in there, and I would use cheaper salt at this point. Don't use a good salt. Kosher salt. Pop it in the oven on 500, just let it sit there and bake off. Or put it on top of a burner, and just crank that burner up, and that salt will get so hot that it just will disintegrate any kind of caked on debris that is inside that pot or pan. It is like an amazing way to clean things because it conducts heat so well, salt. So, which we know if you add salt to water, it changes the freezing point, right? We know that's going. Or if you add it to boiling water, it changes the temperature of boiling water. At a point water will boil. So salt is a major conductor of heat. I worked at a place where I actually took kosher salt and we lined the pans that we bake potatoes on, and we put the potatoes on beds of salt to bake them because of how it conducts the heat. So that was really cool. So back to kosher salt, table salt. This stuff is a scam. Don't buy it. Don't consume it. It's not edible. It's a toxin. It's bad. Your body doesn't understand what to do with it. So people say, well, I know that, Mark, so I buy sea salt. Folks, sea salt, if you think about this, the term sea, the word sea, or the origin of all salt comes from the sea. That's the origin of all salt. Even salt that coming from the Himalayan mountains was once a seabed, and that's when the salt was deposited in the bed, and the mountains rose, and thus, technically, Himalayan salt came from the sea, and it could be sea salt. All right? The Utah Flats, the seabed salt beds out there, that was once the sea. So technically, all the salt that's getting harvested from there technically is sea salt. All right, so don't get caught up with the word sea for sea salt. It's just a generic term that anybody can use, and it is many different types of processing. I can literally call a distributor right now that I know overcharges for every single thing they sell and buy a bag of sea salt from them for like 25 pounds for 16 bucks. I can literally do that. All right, cheap sea salt. A lot of restaurants do that because they go, oh, sea salt, I'm using sea salt. I just bought the Redmond Real Salt today, and it came in 25-pound bags, and it was probably 4 times that price. 4 times that price. So you see the difference? Massive difference in salts. The best brand, going back to Himalayan salt, the single best brand of salt out there, the single best brand of salt, if you want to buy Himalayan salt, is from American Blue Green. That's the importer, American Blue Green. They're out of Oregon, and they import and brand the Symphony. That's that box, a white box of salt with the pyramid in it and some element stuff on it. That salt retails for $30 a kilo, 2.2 pounds, $30, $15 a pound, about $14 a pound. That salt is the only salt in the world that I know of that has medical studies on it. They can actually make medical claims because they have medical studies. That mine uses zero machinery in the mine. It's all done by hand. The way they take it out of the mine is exactly what goes into the pouches when you buy it. Nothing's taken out, nothing's added. It's the salt from the mine, and it's crushed to a specific coarseness, and then that's it. And then it's put into a container and then sent to us, right? So that salt is the best, and it's $30 a kilo, so $14 a pound, all right? The stuff from the Utah Flats that we buy, the Redmond Real Salt, is a mine that's 25 feet deep. There's no pollution. It's a super clean mine. They're pulling salt out of there, and it's harvested. So first of all, the salt from Utah and the salt from the Himalayan mountains was all salt that's the same age. It was all deposited in the same era. So it's about the same age. There's a lot of doctors out there, a lot of alternative nutritionists, a lot of alternative doctors, a lot of people that say that these two salts, the Utah salt and the Himalayan salt, the quality of the salt in the mine as it sits, not before you harvest it, the quality of the salt as it sits in the mines is comparable. It's the same era salt, it's the same minerals, it's the same deposits, it's comparable, very comparable salt. So we were using Symphony, we were using the Himalayan Symphony brand on the tables for many years and paying these ridiculous prices. And then I had an opportunity to meet the owner of Redmond Real Salt, one of the family members of Redmond Real Salt, the company from Utah, and got a great education on salt. And this is the salt that we've been using for probably the last 7-8 years. It's salt that we cook with in the kitchen. We don't have other salts, so it's not like when we brine chicken, we're using a different salt. We don't use a different salt. It's all Redmond Real Salt. We buy it in bulk. Now, we have this on our list now for sale. It has over 50 minerals in it. And if you were to take the salt, and you were to put in water, in a clear glass of water, and stir it around, and even boil the water, you would notice that not all of the salt dissolves. All the salt dissolves, but all the other elements in there, some of the minerals and other things that are in there, do not dissolve because they're not water soluble. The salt is water soluble. The other minerals are not. The water is. So when you take the salt and you stir it around, you'll see in the bottom that there's always some particles left. That's the natural things that are occurring in the salt that's from the mine, that's with the salt, that's born with the salt, all the elements, all the minerals. By the way, women cannot get pregnant if they don't have a salt solution in their womb. We're actually born in a saline solution, in a Soleil solution. That's how we're conceived. So salt, when they say that salt is the key of life, that's what they're talking about, how valuable salt is. But the problem is most salt is cheap salt, highly processed, toxic salt. And when your doctor says, avoid salt, he probably doesn't know about the much better qualities of salt, because salt gets lumped together all in one. It's something all together. Salt is salt. Salt is not salt. Like oil is not oil. All right. So fat is not fat. Sugar is not sugar. There's a vast difference. There's a lot of doctors out there, medical doctors out there, that actually recommend consuming a very small amount of salt a day that's charged, because salt carries this charge and has all these minerals that'll flood your bodies with mineral. And there's something you can make yourself. It's a Soleil solution, put in your windowsill, Let it get moonlight, let it get sunlight, and it's a very high concentration. I did this years ago. It's a very high concentration of salt, and what you do is you keep salt in a glass jar on your windowsill, and to where their salt won't even dissolve in there. That's how concentrated it is. You just take a small half teaspoon out, pop that into a glass of water in the morning, and chug it down. We all know that salt water can help with sore throats, and it can kill bacteria in our mouth. But the Soleil solution is meant to flood your body with minerals and electrons and all kinds of really, really healthier things. So that's the premise of that. So when they say that salt is the key to life, there's a very specific salt that you should be doing. And there's a lot of books out there on how to do this properly. Don't take my word for it. I'm not a doctor and I can't give medical advice. I'm just telling you what I used to do, and I'm telling you the different ways that the salt is processed. So Redmond Real Salt, we just got, I think, 50 pounds in today. We sell it by the pound for $3.99 a pound. If you were to go buy it in the store, it'd be like $7.99 a pound. It is a lot more in the store. I looked at Vital Costs today. Vital Cost had it for, I like to base my prices on Vital. I think it was like $8.99 for a pound and a half. No, that's not right. Yeah, $8.99 for about a pound and a half or something. So we're selling it for $3.99 a pound. So again, we like to be much more affordable than a lot of the other places if we can, and that's one of the items that we buy in proper quantities where we can actually bring that price down nicely so you can save money. We will repackage it into 1 pound units. 1 pound should last you a while. Salt does not go bad unless you get stuff into the salt. All right, don't get stuff into your salt. Salt will not go bad. So salt, in fact, a preservative. That's why they use salt to make prosciutto, smoked salmon, things like that, charcuterie, salamis, because salt is a preservative and draws out water. By the way, if you're grilling off meats, the worst thing you could do, if you have steaks and you want to marinate your steaks a day ahead of time, the worst thing you do is put salt in your marinade. Because salt starts as the leaching process, and it starts drawing water out of your meat. So if you're taking salmon and you're going to marinate salmon, you're going to marinate a ribeye steak the day ahead of time, use some oil, some chopped garlic, some rosemary, some thyme, whatever you're putting in there, whatever spices you're putting in there. Do not put salt in there. Salt will start pulling out and dry your steak out, all right? So, in fact, I don't like to put salt on steaks until we actually put them on the grill and they're marked off, and then one side is actually marked and you flip it. That's when I salt it. I don't even salt it right before, because what happens in the kitchens is sometimes the chef will pull the steak out, put it on his rail on his board or her board, and salt it and get it ready, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, I don't need that steak anymore, and that steak might go back into the cooler and sit there with salt on it. If you're making prosciutto, that's fine, because you want to pull the moisture out to preserve it. But you want to keep the moisture in if you're serving it to a guest fresh. So just as a common habit, as a good habit, we don't salt any meats until they're actually cooked and flipped, and then you have a charred side, then we start the salting process. So that's how that works. That's the best way, the best results. And I learned that in a book many, many years ago. I think it was a Joel Robuchon book, one of his books in the mid-'90s that I read, early '90s, about how to properly salt. It was a Joel Robuchon book with Patricia Wells, I believe, on how to properly salt meats. And ever since then, that's how I've been using salt when it comes to grilling steaks and doing meat. So do not put salt in your marinade. It will pull out the liquids. It'll dry it out. It'll dry it out on you, especially if you're doing it overnight. Not good at all. Let's see. So salt, sea salt, generic term. Any salt can claim they're from the sea. If you're buying sea salt, you want to buy sea salt that says unsolared, unprocessed, unheated. Unsolared is the key term, which means it's been unheated, processed unheating. But let's face it, folks, salt from the ocean or oceans in general are getting very sketchy of where things come from because of the pollution. And this goes for everything. Like if you're really concerned about the food you're eating, like skip all seafood, because the ocean is not the cleanest place to be eating from. Let's face it, this is what's happening. So if you're really, really, really strict and you want to say, well, yeah, you're a purist and seafood is not something that you should be eating. But salt is one of those things that sometimes where they're actually pulling salt from, they have to highly process it because it might not be a clean area. So sea salt Himalayan salt, and then of course the Utah flat salt. Those are the three main types of salts. All came from the sea, so all can be labeled as sea salt. Himalayan salt has 55 different mines. They all process differently. They all harvest differently. Sea salt can be highly processed to minimally processed. Typically, the dirtier the salt is, I call it dirtier, the more things it has in it. It's been unprocessed, or it hasn't been processed as much because they're leaving things in the salt. And then you have the Redmond Real Salt, which we have. It's on our list today. It's on our website now. You can buy it by the pound. It is there. It's in stock. And that's the story with that. Hope that answers your questions on salt and buying salt. All right. One quick thing before I log off right now. Jamie and I are the race directors for Run Like the Wind, and the Run Like the Wind is supposed to be this next Sunday. We usually get a couple hundred runners that come into town here, and we run a 5K course, sometimes a 10K. We topped the 10K last year. Jamie and I, in our normal workload, are very much overwhelmed and are unable to pull off some of these community events that we're involved in. And we do have a couple volunteers for Run Like the Wind. But when COVID happened, and in the beginning of March, when they closed us down, Jamie and I have been working our butts off. We've not had a day off. We work every single day, and we work a lot, and we're working harder than we ever have before. So we wanted to do something for Run Like the Wind because we still have a scholarship that needs to get fulfilled by for two graduating seniors here in Ellenville. So we've been taking donations, and I've not even set up the website or the link yet, but we've been taking donations. If you run and want to donate $10 anytime you run out there, 3K, 5K or something, we're taking donations. We need to raise at least $1,000 for this, and we're going to actually, Aromatime will be the sponsor, and we will actually give you a burger. So your $10 donation will go towards a burger. We're going to get the website set up for this, so you can officially go on and give a donation, and then you can go on the Ellenville Run Like the Wind group, and you can post whatever you ran, whenever you ran. Here's my $10, and I ran a 5K, around town today, and here's what I did, and take a picture of your watch, something like that. So it'll be something like that because we still need to raise the money, and we have to be a little creative. But because Jamie and I have been working so much, we've had zero time to devote towards Run Like the Wind. I don't even think we've updated the website. And we owe some people some money who have actually registered for the race back in January and February before this whole thing happened and went down. So, and again, we don't think we're going to be able to open in the Hudson Valley. I read something today again. We don't think we're going to be able to officially open so you can sit in here and down here and eat in the building until the end of June, beginning of July. We do have some tables outside here in the parking lot. A lot of people are eating in the parking lot. A lot of people are sitting in their cars. We play music every day for everybody. So that's the story with that. Once we reopen, we're going to be promoting a lot of things in our garden because outside areas are going to be less strict as far as the amount of people. Like when we open again, I'm assuming we can only seat every other table. Is it? So I'm assuming that's the situation with that.
I'm giving you those because that's part of my drink today, my happy hour 4 drinks.
So Jamie I ate 2 of these today too. Jamie just handed me blackberries, organic blackberries, which is on our list. There's a few left. I actually ate 2.
Yeah, I ate one yesterday too.
I think I ate 3 today. These are super, super delicious. We have strawberries too. And blueberries. I don't know if blueberries came in today. Blueberries didn't.
But we have blueberries still.
Oh, we have blueberries. Okay, we still have blueberries. Okay. So, so these are on our list. So, we have all kinds of organic stuff. Organic celery came in today. Avocados are back in stock. This is all on our list, folks. If you go to aromatimebistro.com and check all that out, our whole list is there. Jamie goes on live at 4 o'clock with her drink. It's 3 o'clock now. So, I'm going to get off and go for my run. I'm going to go for my run, and because it's sunny out. Maybe I should go for a bike ride. I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to get out and do something. If you've been following me, today is like day number 504 in a row of running, cycling, or hiking. Minimum 3-mile hike, minimum 6-mile run, bike ride, 3-mile hike, or at least a mile run. So if I run today, I'll probably be 2-3 miles to get out for a half an hour or so, 20 minutes. It's just part of the discipline and honoring myself every day to take care of myself. happened 504 days ago. I decided to do that just on a spur of the moment decision to keep myself occupied right after my mother had passed away, and just become a daily ritual. And people ask me, well, how in the world do you find time to run every day, Marcus? And I'm like, I look at them, I say, how do you find time to brush your teeth? They're like, well, I just do it. I'm like, just think you just do it. 10-minute run is nothing. 10 minutes to go outside and honor yourself, move, get some air. No matter if it's pouring rain, no matter if it's 0 degrees, no matter if it's 90 degrees, I take at least a minimum of 10 minutes every day to go honor myself and move my body and breathe deep and just be able to just let my mind free and not stress about anything. So it's just something I do for myself. And it's literally, when you do it that many days in a row and you form a habit like that, which becomes part of what you do, it's nothing. 10 minutes is nothing to go out there and just do a simple run. Most days I do more than just 10 minutes. Weekends we do 6 or so with friends, and that's what we do, or a bike ride more. So that's the situation there. But easy 10 minutes. So it's just it's that simple thought process. Most people waste 10 minutes on Instagram a day just scrolling through pictures. That 10 minutes can be designed to do something else. So like move your body, stay active, be fit. And that's it, folks. Jamie will be on at 4 in about an hour. Hope that helps you on your salt information about buying salt. So there's a reason if Himalayan salt is really cheap. There's a very good reason why it's cheap, certain brands, and there's a good reason why certain brands are very expensive. 55 different brands, they all practice different harvesting and processing techniques. All right, thanks for tuning in, folks. I will see you later. Have a good one.